I'd like to tell you the story of a young man, let's call him Jack, who had just returned from his honeymoon. In fact, he and his new bride were all of 6 hours into their post-honeymoon life together when Jack was stricken with a life-threatening disturbance in his normal cardiac rhythm, or an arrhythmia. This particular arrhythmia was so abrupt and severe, like an explosive lightning storm in his heart, so as to result in sudden cardiac arrest, meaning that Jack had no detectable pulse or blood circulating through his entire body. In the case of sudden cardiac arrest, time is of the essence. And luckily, Jack's wife was right there and immediately called 911. Still, Jack required 6 shocks from an external defibrillator, 5 days of induced coma, followed by an additional 30 days in the hospital. I want you to take a moment and reflect on how you expect this story to end. How do you think Jack's condition was treated? Specifically, how were the decisions made around selecting a therapy? What happened if a prescribed therapy was ineffective? We'll return to Jack's story in a little bit, and I don't want to spoil the ending, but it might surprise you to hear that the answer to these questions can be summarized as trial and error. Lots of trial and lots of painful error. Before I continue, I'd ask you to ponder one additional question. Why? Why can't Jack's story end right here with the fairy tale ending? The cause of his disease was identified in the hospital, he was matched to the perfect therapy, and he and his wife lived happily ever after. My name is Tom Hund, and I am a biomedical engineer and director of the Davis Heart and Lung Research Institute. Despite many years of studying the heart, I continue to be amazed by an organ charged with generating billions of heartbeats over an average lifespan with little room for failure. Equally fascinating to me is that the heart is just so dynamic, meaning that it can change or adapt in remarkable ways to stress. Now, we've all experienced the sensation of our heart beating faster in response to exercise, for example, or maybe a bear encounter, or, I don't know, delivering a Wexner live talk, feel that blood pumping. That thrilling sensation is the byproduct of an increase in circulating blood, which helps the body meet whatever challenge it faces, whether a bear or public speaking. Incredibly, the heart has additional tricks up its metaphorical sleeve in the event that the stress persists. For example, during pregnancy, the mom's heart will undergo many changes, including actual growth of the heart muscle, to increase the circulation of blood by up to 50%, only to return to normal after birth like nothing ever happened in most cases. The scenarios I've presented so far demonstrate how the heart can adapt to better meet the demands imposed by physiological stress. Interestingly, pathological conditions like high blood pressure, obesity, or cardiovascular disease also apply stress on the heart and induce adaptation, but often in ways that make the organ less suited to meet the body's demands. You may be surprised to hear that in many respects, we don't really understand how or why the heart is able to successfully resolve stress in one case, but not in the other. And despite lots of hard work by very smart people, the last time we invented a major new drug to treat heart failure or arrhythmia, it was the 1980s, and I was wearing this. So I'll ask you the same question I asked earlier. Why? Why has it been so difficult to invent a drug that can cure heart failure, or in Jack's case, cardiac arrhythmia? I'll tell you that despite many years of school, a bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering, a master's and PhD in biomedical engineering, many more years of training, all focused on the heart, I don't know the answer to these questions. But I will share how I think we'll get the answers and why it will only happen at a place like Ohio State. Now that you've had some time to reflect on the fate of our young Jack, I'll tell you that Jack underwent a battery of tests while in the hospital, which unfortunately were unable to identify a specific cause for his arrhythmia. Due to the severity of the event and likelihood for future similar events, Jack was given an implantable cardioverter defibrillator, or ICD, which looks like this, and was discharged from the hospital, again after a stay of more than 30 days. However, Jack would have recurrent episodes of life-threatening arrhythmias, requiring multiple hospital visits and procedures over the next months to years in an attempt to identify a cause and ultimately a treatment for the mystery disease. One night, Jack was struck with a particularly aggressive bout of arrhythmia that required 91 shocks from his ICD in one night, resulting in actual burn marks to his body. Fortunately, he survived and was eventually referred to Ohio State, where an outstanding interdisciplinary team in the OSU Wexner Medical Center and the Davis Heart and Lung Research Institute, led by none other than our co-host, Dr. Peter Moeller, was able to devise a strategy to manage Jack's arrhythmia and provide a semblance of normalcy to his life. To get to the root of Jack's disease, the team used a combination of no less than 10 major disciplines, which I will count down in David Letterman style, continuing with our 1980s nostalgia. Roughly in the order of application: number 10, clinical electrophysiology; 9, cardiac imaging; number 8, genetics; 7, genetic counseling; number 6, molecular biology; number 5 and 4, cellular biology and electrophysiology; number 3, computational biology; number 2, more genetic counseling; and finally, number 1, pharmacy. My lab contributed the computational modeling, which for many of you might be the most unexpected entry on the list. But the computer provides tremendous power to explore the universe of possibilities that are difficult or even impossible to search experimentally, and definitely not in a human patient. Now, I've told you that at Ohio State, we were able to bring all these different disciplines, including computer modeling, together to help Jack. And you are probably asking yourself, that sounds great, but how? Now, I don't have time to describe in detail every step of the journey, and it's difficult to do justice to the excitement, agony, and thrill of discovery in a few sentences. So I'll get an assist from our women's hockey team, who recently brought home the first NCAA championship in program history. Now, for this analogy, I want you to think of each Buckeye as a distinct research group with specialized expertise, and the puck as medical or scientific knowledge. To get the action going, the genetics team identifies a typo or variant in Jack's genetic code affecting a specific protein in heart cells, and passes to the cell biologists, who collect data in the lab using heart cells engineered to express the misspelled protein found in Jack's heart, which is then used by the computational team to create a virtual heart cell that can make predictions about ways to fix Jack's heart. And finally, pharmacists bring it home to determine the right combination of drugs to accomplish the results predicted by the computer model. And over the more than 2-year window of follow-up, Jack would not have a single event requiring the use of his ICD. Goal. I share Jack's story because I find it to be an incredible example of the power of teamwork. How no one clinician or scientist or counselor alone could have delivered the winning shot on goal, and how lucky we are to be at a place like Ohio State, where all the important interdisciplinary players can be found on one team. Now, Jack's is just one story, and I'd like to tell you we didn't just get lucky here by fortuitously hitting on the right blend of therapy to help this patient after many failed attempts. But imagine for a moment that we were able to deliver the happy end of the story to Jack after his first episode and leapfrog the terrifying part where he received more than 90 painful defibrillator shocks in one night. Imagine that we can deliver this success to every patient and skip over the messy and sometimes traumatic trial and error parts. I'm here to tell you that this vision is within reach at the OSU Wexner Medical Center and the Davis Heart and Lung Research Institute, where we are finding new ways to create and support interdisciplinary research teams every day. I invite you to join us on this journey in a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change the delivery of healthcare and outcomes for patients in Ohio and abroad. Thank you.